Live here tonight, it is the Sim500 FEG PC Grand National Series. I'm Matt Egan, joined by Jacob Young. How you doing tonight, Jacob?
Doing really well. Looking forward to watching some more racing today. We've had plenty of racing in the real life Cup Series as well as the Xfinity Series going on right now, but I cannot wait to watch these drivers here in the Sim 500 as I believe David Comstock in first place at the moment, so very excited here.
Yeah, Comstock is the fast driver at the moment. Justin Fuller second quick. Now the thing with Comstock, he finished second last night. 10 laps less on the schedule here. What do you think's going to happen on that?
Well, different strategies will play out once again for sure. These 10 less laps might mean the drivers will try to go to be more aggressive, especially not necessarily early on, but probably later on. So that will be interesting to see. And just, of course, well, we've got a couple of not new drivers, but just drivers that didn't necessarily join last night that joined tonight, like Justin Fuller. So, of course, they'll be racing in different types of conditions. These cars are a little bit tougher to drive, in my opinion. They don't have the downforce that, of course, well, the Cup cars have, so that'll be an interesting play of things for sure.
Yeah, and we have a few more drivers than we had last night, too. I think a full 43-car field is on tap for your viewing pleasure as we get ready to go racing here tonight. So right now, cars getting ready to go racing. 27 seconds left here in qualifying. And you can see Trey Edison will not run a lap. Bonwell will run a lap 27th quick. Jimmy Coleman, the 16th. Clint Cox, 14th. But Daniel Falkingham, well, he won last night. Can he sweep the weekend? That'll be the question as he starts on pole, it looks like.
Yeah, exactly. The number 31 car of Daniel Falkingham going to start on that inside row right beside his teammate of David Comstock. That's going to be an interesting battle, and it will probably play out throughout the night. Of course, both drivers will have to be careful with their tires as these cars really do like to slide, especially that back end. So it'll be very interesting to see how it plays out, and I cannot wait.
Well, here's your starting lineup coming at you. It'll be Daniel Falkingham, David Comstock, the two teammates gridding up on the first row. Row 2, Justin Fuller, Chad Cole, Ryan Howard, Anthony Catalone, Stephen Ritter, Brandon Key, EJ O'Rourke, Jim Ott, Brian Macklin. He had a good run, though, unfortunately cut out early due to a wreck. But he was pretty fast in the early goings last night. Thomas Conheady outside of him. Richard Beasley, Clint Cox, Robert Gillenwater, and Jimmy Coleman. John Mustaine Jr. and Scott Formosa. Glenn Campbell and Mike Monsetti. Chris Stamper and Ray Jackson. Kevin Brown and Chad Coleman. Chris Gabu and Gregory Bradenberg, Josh Bonwell and Michael Whittaker, Whitaker, my bad, Gail Brooks and Jeff Ryan, Jason Arson and Trey Bass, Don Runkle, Trey Edison, Josh Parker, Tommy Ryan, Joey Gattina, Milt Mattis, Randy Yoakum, Dwight Beverly, Doug Sigmund, and John Wilco and Bill Schoonover. He rounds out your field 22 rows deep, 43 cars strong. You want to talk about a big field? Look no further. If you want good racing and a lot of drivers supporting it, come to Sim 500. We got it all coming at you here in just a few moments. I tell you, this should be a great night of racing.
Indeed. Talking about it once again, strategy will come into play, and these drivers will be wanting every position possible. We talked about it from last week as well. how the drivers weren't necessarily able to advance their position that much throughout the runs. Yes, it was kind of on that strategy, but I do expect to see a bit of that same deal just due to the fact of, well, A, how tough the cars do handle here, and B, it's just, well, once again, it's a driver's track. Whoever really is the best will show here tonight, so that's going to be an interesting little turn of things, and cannot wait for this week. And also, of course, next week will be kind of that same exact deal, so it will be interesting to see how these drivers do adapt throughout the virtual day, especially with the line. Sometimes it'll be easier to run the high line close to the banking, and sometimes it will be easier to run close to that white line.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see just how it all plays out. As you can see, cars getting ready to go racing. As they go through 3 and 4, Falkingham Comstock, we saw that combination leading the group for the majority of the second half last night. Well, here we go. They'll start off leading here tonight. It's the pace car down, it's the green flag out, and we are rocking into the night from Las Vegas. And 3 wide already as they go down into turns 1 and 2. Looks like Brian Macklin trying his hand on the bottom there. You see him next to Steven Ritter, I believe that green and white machine was. And yes, it was Macklin and Ritter side by side. Behind him, E.J. O'Rourke and Richard Beasley in the 10, the Tide machine. I was trying to think of a pun there related to Tide, and I couldn't quite think of one. But he's coming for that spot. Look at Brian Macklin on the bottom. Now we're going to notice a difference between these cars and the cars we raced last night. Low downforce and no tapered spacer means these drivers, they'll get spread out and they won't have too much trouble doing it.
Exactly, and that's going to be very fun to just watch that unfold and that happen. And most likely with those green flag pit stops will be the only times that we'll see these drivers come back together. And of course, we've already seen early on 3 wide, so those drivers trying to get the positions early because they know that that's going to be a huge possibility later on in the run.
Yeah, battling for position now, Ryan Howard and Chad Cole. Chad Cole and that old Kyle Busch car, remember that from the, was it Toyota Racing Design or Sponsor Fire promotion from the early, late 2000s, early 2010s. That's the Pink Unicorns and Kittens Z-Line Designs car that Kyle Busch raced at Richmond. Chad Cole driving the same paint scheme, driving it in 4th right now, having a good run. David Comstock falling back. Daniel Falkingham not the leader. It is Justin Fuller starting to pull away. What do you think of that there, Jacob?
Very impressive. It shows how much he enjoys that race car and how much he can really decide to, well, push on it. Of course, you have to be careful early. Yes, you want to gain that lead, but once you, well, I take back what I said. Once you can gain that lead, then you can control the pack and control your own pace. So that's a perfect opportunity for him to do exactly that.
Yeah, that is for sure. Anthony Cataloni right back there in 5th place, now trying to get to the back end of Comstock. He's got Ryan Howard in tow. Cataloni looks like he's got a good thing going at the moment in the 84. Not quite going for the position just yet. Ryan Howard in the 33 looking to his inside. Doesn't take it yet, but he was looking. He was there. He wanted the spot. Further back, Kevin Brown battling for 20th place with Mike Monsetti. Monsetti side by side for that 20th position going into 1 and 2. Looks like he'll take it. Josh Bonwell following behind. And Chris Gibu, and I'm terribly sorry if I'm saying that wrong, right back there in that 5th place. Or in that 5 car in 23rd. And look at Chad Coleman. You talk about drivers that were having a great run last night. Jacob, you remember Chad Coleman towards the front of the field to the middle of the race last night. Now stuck towards the back. You think that might be by design?
Possibly, for sure. Maybe a bad qualifying run or something like that. And of course, yes, we talked about it. It's early in this race. Strategy will become a big part of this race, especially if we stay green for a long time. And even if, we go under caution, he'll be able to gain positions as long as, of course, he avoids those wrecks and things like that. The only question is when will we have that first wreck as well as where. So a lot of things can play out, and I think it's all due to strategy here, just staying kind of in the back of the field for now. And of course is going to try to push forward, but he'll still have plenty of time to do so even later on in this run.
Yeah, that is for sure. Meanwhile, you go further back in the field. Again, 41 drivers on track, so a large field. Bill Schoonover bringing up the rear of that 41 driver field. And do ignore that our ticker says he's in 36. For some reason, it doesn't like to display more than 36 cars. We will rectify that, but he is at the back of that field. John Mustaine Jr. Actually, we do have all 43 cars on track. Mustaine bringing up the rear of the 43 car field. Not a great night for John Mustaine Jr. I wonder if he's having problems with the car, if he's doing that on purpose. What do you think?
Well, it could be on purpose, and like you said, could be because he's struggling with the race car. It's very slick out there at the moment, and it is early on in these runs. We talk about it, trying to go on that low line for as much as possible. You talk about the left rear being worn down early and things of that nature. It's just a very difficult, fun racetrack, but a very difficult racetrack to get down with these cars and this package. I do understand why drivers would love it, as well as fans, just due to the fact that, so far we've stayed green, and it's if you don't necessarily have it down by race weekend, it will be very difficult to get down by the end of the race.
And we're watching right now Dwight Beverly back there in 36th place, racing with Tommy Ryan and Milton Mattis. Now, he's not having the best of nights, but we saw Beverly in that cup car. He was able to work his way to the front of the field. That might be a little bit harder to do in these Xfinity race cars.
Especially with no real draft, of course. Yes, you can try and get some slipstream throughout that backstretch, no matter in what cars you can kind of do that. But the only difference is, just advancing your position. Once again, we talked about it before. It's just so difficult. This track, yes, it's only so wide. And, of course, it's just going to be difficult to pass, especially if you think you got a run on them and then somehow your car kind of gets loose. So it's just going to take time. These drivers, no matter where they're at, have to be patient and make sure that they can make it to the first green flag run and just continue to get their car better throughout the runs.
Yeah, and speaking of drivers that are going to have a difficult time, talk about Joey Gattina in 31st position. Now, he was at Speed Weeks contending for wins, now running towards the back of the field again. Part of me wonders, is that on purpose, or is he potentially having a bad night? 15 laps into the race, I guess a lot of time to figure out where that stands, but it could go either way.
Exactly. Only time will tell for most of these drivers to see if they can get up front and race with Chad Cole, Justin Fuller, Daniel Falcon, and David Comstock, and even Ryan Howard.
And you can see he's actually 33rd place. Looks like Josh Bonwell will be battling for position with him. And he falls back just a little bit, not too far back though. Race leader though, Daniel Falkingham, or actually no, he's third. Chad Cole rather, your race leader. Justin Fuller side by side with Chad Cole. So this is the battle for the lead now, and they're breaking away from that second group of cars, or from that main group of cars, I should say.
Yeah, exactly. They are indeed doing that, having a good distance between them as well. And just like I talked about, that's exactly what you want to do if you're the lead pack or just the lead cars, because, well, we saw it even in the main race where you're more comfortable, your car will be more comfortable with just clean air, as every single race car, no matter, I think, in what group you're racing in, whether it's road or oval, is just going to work better in clean air. And so that's exactly what you're able to do. Control that pace and just work with it. It's not a huge gap, but they are pulling away indeed.
Yeah, they are, not by much, but by the tune of about a full second over Falkingham, which, as you said, that's not a big gap in racing terms, or, in most terms, but with racing, rather, that is quite a considerable gap. As they go down into 3 and 4 now, you have battle for position a little bit the ways back by about Steven Ritter and Anthony Cataloni. And looks like Anthony falling back, unfortunately. Looks like he might be having some issues. I think he may have tagged the wall. I don't know if you saw it there, Jacob.
Yeah, I happened to miss that one, but it is possible that he did, in fact, tag the wall. As I'm seeing his car, yes, there is a little bit of damage. Not a lot, but just enough to notice that, of course, he did tag the wall. So, of course, you lose all that momentum when you kind of hit the wall, and it's very difficult to gain that momentum back, especially in these race cars. But, of course, like I said, it will take him time. He'll get back in the pit lane and probably be fine from then on.
And right now, side by side, looks like the 45, Brandon Key, to the inside now of that 84 machine. Key looks like he's having a good run. Now, I don't want to jinx us, but we've gone about almost 25 laps. Green flag. Do you think we're going to see a caution within the first 50 laps here?
Well, within the first 50 laps, it's still very possible that we will. These drivers, even in the back field, have really been racing each other very hard. Now, I'm not going to say that they're going to end up maybe wrecking each other, but of course you race that hard, you go 3 wide through a couple of corners, someone gets a bit too tight, especially later on in the run, and slides up and accidentally hits a driver, and then of course it can all kind of domino from there. It is still possible for us to see a caution in the first 50 laps.
And let's take a little bit look back to around 20th place. This is where drivers, again, really starting to get spread out. You look at a driver like Gale Brooks in the 71. Now he's around drivers. He's around the 50, Ray Jackson, Joey Gattina, and Michael Whitaker, and Gregory Bradenberg, of course. But you see, they're starting to spread out just a little bit. And this is going to happen as these cars run through their tires, run through their fuel. Look at Josh Parker starting to try and work his way up through the field.
Yeah, exactly. You said it best. As they work with their tires through the fuel, the cars get lighter and the tires get more and more worn, especially that left side, as we talked about, as well as, of course, the right side. You can't forget about that. But at this track, it's very interesting that left side kind of wears down a little bit more. So you will have to just make sure, and some drivers will even decide to kind of back off, especially early in this run, to try and just push as much as they can possibly push before they have to dive down pit lane. Expect to see that. A couple of drivers kind of fall back to just pit and, well, then of course gain that position right back.
It looks like Whitaker's got some damage too, I've noticed. He's in the 2/26. But that rolling machine, he's got some damage on the right side. We got one in the wall behind him. And that's going to be your first caution. Ray Jackson has gone around down the backstretch, collects the 30 of Jeff Ryan. Here's your instant replay. Jackson tags the wall. Looks like Randy Yoakum involved as well. Josh Bonwell escaping it. Jeff Ryan got a piece of it, though, unfortunately for him. And it looks like all a matter of just getting a little too tight coming out of the corner. Watch how that 50 car goes through turns 2. Comes up off the corner, a little bit tight, nails the wall. 99, I think that's Tommy Ryan, barely gets out of the way. Yoakum got a piece of it, and then he slides back up across, and that's where the 30 of Jeff Ryan, unfortunately, involved. And you look at Ray Jackson's car, and you look at the back end of that, there's really nothing left. So a bit of an unfortunate situation for him to be a part of. So
now, if I'm not mistaken, though, I think these drivers might have a fast fix, but of course you don't want to use it this early in the race. But for, of course, drivers like Ray Jackson, how damaged their car is, they'll most likely have to take it.
I mean, if he doesn't take it, you look at it, he's got no back bumper, no deck lid. There's no way that car would actually be able to compete without taking a fast fix.
Yeah.
Looks like he didn't take it, though, as he comes off a pit road. He'll come out 25th, no fast repair. So either they don't have one, which I do think they do, as you mentioned. So looks like he might be saving that for a worse incident, but I'm going to be honest and say I think he should have taken it. I mean, it looks okay from the front, but just look at the back end of that race car. I think he needed it.
Exactly, that back end, but the way that these cars have driven, it's almost no difference in the way that, of course, with no downforce. Though I think he came down pit lane and actually might have missed his pit box.
Oh,
and
man,
will maybe
that
have
could
to
be.
come back around again.
Yeah, it looks like he's down on the apron. He might be heading back into his pit box. 24th position he is currently scored in. And, yep, it looks like he is coming back in. So, yep, he did miss his box. I was going to say, I wouldn't have expected him to not take a fast fix if he had one at his disposal. A little bit under 100 laps to go, about 98 to be exact. As Ray Jackson heads down pit lane, we're working our first caution. We'll see what he does in the box. Right sides go up. Looks like no fast repair. Not yet, anyway. We're going to kind of monitor this pit stop and see what happens. Yeah, no fast fix. It looks like he's electing to get that race car repaired the old-fashioned way. And I can't imagine that's going to play out great for him. As David Comstock leads the field around under caution. What do you expect on this next run, Jacob?
Well, of course, these restarts will be interesting to watch because I do expect drivers to really file out and try and go kind of 3 wide to use up the width of the racetrack, especially down the backstretch, and, of course, the first turns of 1 and 2. That will be interesting to see, and, of course, drivers like David Comstock, Ryan Macklin, and even Justin Fuller to once again try and get away from the pack to kind of have their own 3-horse battle, if you were to say so. So kind of something along that line, and of course us to go green once again, closer maybe to 50 laps this time on green.
Yep, I'll let you get the green this time by, as David Comstock leads Brian Macklin and Justin Fuller with Ryan Howard and EJ O'Rourke to round out your top 5.
Sounds great as they head into the backstretch here. Gonna be interesting. David Comstock in charge of this restart, and if we do recall from, I believe, last night as well, the person on the bottom lane just, of course, yes, was in charge of that restart, but just was able to kind of take off from it. So restarts are going to be so important at this racetrack once again. So watch out for David Comstock to really be able to get up and away without maybe spinning his tires or anything like that. Brian Macklin will try and time it, but most likely won't be able to. As the pace car goes down in pit lane, and we are racing once again here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway.
Good start for David Comstock. That's what he needed as they get down into 1 and 2. Macklin trying to clear Fuller. And that's going to be the question. Looks like Fuller gets the better bite on the bottom line. As they'll go down into 3 and 4 now. Fuller on the bottom, Macklin on the top. Fuller clears Macklin. Macklin will slide in, but he'll try and slide over onto the bottom. E.J. O'Rourke says not today, and E.J. O'Rourke takes 3rd place. How about that?
Yeah, a huge move there, but he's stuck on the outside and will have to go right back and tuck right back behind the 41 car. Oh, yeah, Brian Macklin will have to tuck right behind the 41 car of E.J. O'Rourke. So an interesting deal there.
And you can see here 32 laps in at the line. Clint Cox back there in 6th. Trying to gain ground. That 03 car has had a pretty nice night of things so far. You look at his positions tonight. He started 14th, has gotten up to 6th. That's a gain of about 11 positions. I gotta say, if I were Clint, I'd be pretty happy.
Yeah, exactly. I'd be pretty happy if I was him indeed. In a perfect position, has put himself in the perfect position for a great finish. Right now, it does seem like David Comstock and Justin Fuller have been the top 2 that have kind of been able to take away this race from everyone else at the moment. They just have had those faster cars, especially on the short runs. Yes, we had somewhat of a long run there with 28 laps, but as we did see who was really going to be great on that kind of medium run, I guess we could call it. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next.
And right now, it looks like David Comstock with control of the lead. This is where we saw him for the majority of the race last night, but I'd like to remind everyone watching, he wound up 2nd. I'm sure Comstock doesn't want to be reminded of that, but that's where he finished. So I wouldn't say that by leading the most laps guarantees you a good finish.
Oh, exactly. I think we even saw that today as well. If I'm not mistaken, it was Kevin Harvick who led the most laps in the Cup Series race and wound up finishing in 6th position due to going to hit with 6 laps to go. So, yes, of course, it does not necessarily grant you a victory in any means. You have to lead that final lap.
And right now, you can see Brian Macklin trying to work his way back up. How about Richard Beasley as well? Trying to do the same thing with 90 laps to go. Beasley trying to make his bid at it. Still a long way to go in tonight's race for him. Jim Ott on the outside lane ahead of him with Steven Ritter. Jim Ott looking for a good run going down into 3 and 4 now, side by side for position. And you can see there, look at Ott. He is working the outside. Looks like he'll be getting by Chad Cole. Car exiting the pits. That looks like the 30 of Jeff Ryan. And looks like Steven Ritter trying to pull him on the outside. Working with Ott. They're trying to get by Chad Cole right now for 5th position. And it's not quite happening for them. Or not happening for Ritter. It's happening for Ott. He gets a great run on that outside lane. Is that bottom line really starting to rubber in, so I think the outside is starting to see a little bit more speed.
For sure, and I kind of expected that through the night or as the day rolled on here in Las Vegas, however you want to say it, just due to, of course, iRacing in the daytime for Las Vegas at the moment. But either way, yes, that outside line, I've really enjoyed racing this outside line, especially in turns 1 and 2. Has it been that key place to be? And that's really where you see that speed coming from. It's that 1 and 2 on the outside.
And right now, 40 laps in just a few moments, Justin Fuller looks like he's getting ready to reclaim that race lead. As they go down the backstretch, look at E.J. O'Rourke trying to get a spot in as well. Now, what do you think of E.J. O'Rourke? I think he's having a great night so far, personally.
Yes, for sure. He is having a phenomenal night right now. Just in 3rd position, and he's in a great place to just be at the moment, as long as, of course, he doesn't make a mistake or do anything like that, as long as he keeps just a kind of check on his tires to make sure that he's not pushing too much. He'll be in a fantastic position. Of course, strategy will come into play. He could even try, if we do get into a green flag pit stop, try and undercut, be that first car down from the lead lap group and make that whole difference, because as we've seen time and time again, we even saw last night that undercut worked wonders as well. Yes, we did have a late race caution, if I'm not mistaken, but talk about it, and, well, it can just work out. It can play into your favor, especially when you're in that top 5 or top 3 position.
And look at Comstock there trying to hold off E.J. O'Rourke. O'Rourke looks to the bottom on the front stretch. Remember, no line rule like the super speedways. So you can go below the white line, and O'Rourke taking advantage of it down the front stretch. Almost had the pass. I tell you, I think he's going to try and set something up into 3. He's going to look, but doesn't go. Macklin looks to the inside of Clint Cox. Cox will say no, shuts the door on it. And looks like side by side, Steven Ritter on the bottom now, swapping it up. Right down on the yellow line. I think that's kind of an interesting strategy to see. What do you think?
Yeah, it is for sure an interesting thing to see, just kind of hugging that line. It's something that we'll see a lot used in the rest of this race, but it's something that can kind of also slow you down too as well. Really just that top and bottom line really work, and sometimes using that apron hurts you.
Yeah, that is for sure. Justin Fuller, though, holding the race lead, looking a little further back. You see who is that there? I think that's Jimmy Coleman. He didn't have a good night last night, but Coleman looking to improve on that here tonight. Coleman having a pretty good run going down into 1 and 2. Working on the back end of Glenn Campbell, and Formosa behind him. He's going to look high there down the 1 and 2, running a little bit high, and not a bad strategy to go with. You kind of always want to be a little bit higher than the guy in front of you, or a little bit different. The way I've heard it, you're never going to pass a guy running his exact line, so I think it's kind of smart being just a little bit up of the other driver, you know?
Yeah, exactly, because yes, you're still getting kind of their draft, but at that same exact time, just if you feel like you have a run, you can easily overtake them. So it's a very smart idea to do. I'm watching right now the 17 and the 32, or 17 to 10 actually. Richard Beasley and Chad Cole right now just battling it out, and it's been a very interesting battle going on as he's just trying to block, and it's, well, just a very interesting battle so far.
Yeah, that is for sure. Look a little further back. Mancetti and Formosa going at it. The 07 and the 7. The 07 stuck up high. Looks like he walks to the wall just a little bit. Leaves the 7 car down to the bottom. Good run for him at the moment. can see the 07 just having a great run down into 1 and 2 right now. Off of turn number 2, he is looking to the back end of Jimmy Coleman. I saw Chad Cole peep out behind Jim Ott all over his back bumper. This is for position number 9. Chad Cole down to the inside, side by side for position. Cole makes the pass. Good run by Chad Cole.
Yeah, still not necessarily clear just yet. But very great battle. He's got the inside line, as we've said. Though the inside line is kind of rubbered in, and that outside line is where to be, but he's still able to clear him, and that's a fantastic run by Cole once again to get that 9th position.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised there that he was able to get by. Looked like he had a great run going through that corner that time. And looks like Jim Ott stuck on that high line. The high line, you don't want to be all by yourself right now. It looks like Ott actually tagged the wall there down the backstretch as well. And right now, side by side here for position. Almost touching doors there, the 4 and the 32. As they go into turn 1 and 2, looks like the 4 of Gilmwater gonna come off the corner. Both cars push towards the wall, and inches from the wall was Jim Ott. As they now go back down into the corner once again. So kind of an interesting situation to see here, don't you think?
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty interesting. We're seeing a lot of groups kind of forming now as just their own battle is going on. And once again, Justin Fuller in the lead. He's kind of in his own zone with the drivers, well, just with David Comstock.
I was about to say, you see drivers pulling away. Justin Fuller not able to shake that 42 car. You know, Comstock finished second last night, and I'm sure he wants that win more than anything here tonight, especially because of that.
Yeah, exactly, as he's on the inside trying to make a pass as they're side by side down the backstretch.
And side by side here. And Comstock thought better of it for the moment. Can't blame him. Didn't want to risk it into the corner. Looks like Comstock I think might have gotten loose going through that corner there, but good job going through the corner. Comstock led that lap. How about that? Look, where did that burst of speed come from?
Yeah, I think he kind of, just like you said, got loose, but the scrub that he needed exactly to kind of just fake the outside and go inside instead and just take off. And I think that's exactly what happened there.
And right here, 55 laps in. David Comstock, your new race leader. 71 laps to go. Justin Fuller second, Brian Macklin third. Ryan Howard is currently fourth with Clint Cox in fifth. Side by side, look at E.J. O'Rourke looking low. O'Rourke's going to go very low to the bottom right now. And O'Rourke not going to make anything happen just yet. As they go into the corner, E.J. O'Rourke still trying to work on Clint Cox. He's gaining a little bit of ground, but looks like Cox faster out of the corner, and Steven Ritter going to catch up with his group now. Having a pretty nice run. So, Jacob, what do you think of this race so far? It's been amazingly clean, having only one caution.
Exactly, as we head on to lap 57. So, of course, doing a bit, about 30 more laps now. So, yeah, it's been very interesting with how clean it's been as well. Of course, we haven't seen one green flag pit stop, as I did see one driver actually sneak into pit lane. Don't know who that was at the moment, but talk about it. This is normally, as the tires get worn, this is normally where we do see a couple of mistakes made, whether it's just tagging the wall or kind of getting loose. So I wouldn't be shocked to see another caution if something like that were to happen, because of how worn out these tires are getting.
And right now, coming up on, I think, lap traffic in a little bit, I would imagine, with how quickly they've been going. And yeah, they'll be closing in on Doug Sigmund. They're about half a straightaway away as Comstock crosses the stripe. Good run for Comstock right here. I tell you, he's led 21 laps. But again, we saw him lead a majority of the race last night. But it is the final lap that matters. That is the big fish.
Most definitely is the final lap. But the most impressive part as well is that he's got about a second lead almost every single lap that he's crossed the start-finish straight. So you talk about all of that, he's gaining that lead. A caution would only hurt him. So, of course, he needs to get as big of a lead and lap as many cars as possible. And, then, of course, go down pit lane when he needs to, as we already see a couple of drivers, or at least I saw a couple of drivers exiting pit lane. So it's about to be that time to get 4 fresh Goodyear tires on and some Sunoco fuel.
Yeah, and I would imagine probably 2 more stops here tonight. This one and maybe one other, if they can split it 35 and 35. You know, 65 divided by 2, that would be 32 laps each. But they would have to find some way to split it there. And look at right around here, Chad Coleman, Trey Edison, and all these guys racing around each other pretty hard for position. And you saw Edison had a bit of a wobble. So this might be where we see our next caution come from. And you can see all the way up to the top of the wall goes Chad Coleman, or Trey Edison rather, my bad. Just incredibly tight racing, incredibly great racing to watch here, I must say.
Exactly, as it looks like the 4-car of Robert Gillenwater is going to be passed by Chad Cole. Chad Cole looking for that move, able to make that pass done. And, well, of course, now, once again, Gillenwater actually, my apologies, is trying to get passed by Trey Edison. That's been that battle, and that's been an interesting thing because he has nudged his nose right on his inside, but hasn't necessarily forced the issue.
And look at the 4 as he'll now make that pass. Shoots up right in front of him. Good pass there for him. Robert Gillenwater just doing great at the moment. David Comstock, though, doing a great job out in front, leading the show. I tell you, coming up to 30 laps led for Comstock, I'm sure he's thinking about last night and how Again, and I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but I mean, you know, he led so many laps and just came up a little bit short in the end.
Well, I can tell you one thing, when something like that does happen, I think it's really later on in the race that it gets to you. Right now, he's just focusing on let me lead as much as possible, especially with most likely having to take a pit stop. Because right now, it's just you're focusing, you're not trying to think of anything that, of course, hurt you. Because once you start to think of other things, then it gets into your mind, and most likely you won't be able to really succeed or be victorious in the end.
And right now, 67 laps in. You got 59 laps to go. Well, if you were trying to figure out a strategy, when would you strategize the best time to hit the pits?
Well, of course, it all depends on how your car feels, especially later on in the run. If you're losing too much time, yes, dive down in pit lane as soon as possible. But if anything, if a big group goes into pit lane, make sure to follow with them. That's always a good strategy, as well as for at least this race, especially right now, because you don't know if you don't really want to save fuel or you don't think that another caution's coming out. Well, then stay out for almost as long as you can and then go down pit lane, because you want to have enough fuel and just tire use for the end of this race.
And you look a little further back, drivers like Brandon Key, John Wilco, all looking for a good strategy play. Because, you know, you look at Wilco, 34th position. He needs a good strategy play if he wants a shot at it, and he needs to gain 2 laps as well. So that's going to be the hard thing for him, is getting those 2 laps. And because of the lack of cautions, you're seeing so few drivers up on the lead lap, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Only 30 drivers on the lead lap in your 43 car field. And
exactly,
a lot of them are pitting, though.
It is shrinking for sure. Yes, a lot of them are pitting as well. But yes, pitting a little too early sometimes results in struggling to get your lap back, because once you really do get your lap back, you're kind of where you started to where your tire where it is. As I do see the 38 of Chad Coleman diving down pit lane with a couple of drivers ahead of him too.
Yep, Fuller and Steven Ritter down in the pits. Nemesis Lab Machine, Justin Fuller. I love that paint scheme, by the way. I think I mentioned that last week at Daytona, and I'm going to mention it again, because look at that car, and he missed his box just a little bit, had to back up. He's going to lose a lot of time. But look at how nice that car is. Bright neon greens, and especially the metallic, have always looked good, in my opinion.
Yeah, it does look good, in my opinion, as well. You can
he
really
will lose
almost
a spot. Didn't lose too much ground, though.
Exactly. Did not lose too much ground. His car still is intact. Looks great as ever. And, well, he'll just have to fight right off of pit lane. So it's something that you know that you would have to do either way. But now, of course, he's trying to get around traffic and around his competitor, which would be none other than the 16 car, Steven Ritter.
Yeah, so now here's your question. If they can go, say, about at least 35 laps on a tank of fuel, they have to split it. Say 62 laps was about, 32 laps each. When would you pit if they can make this into a 2-stop race? Which what I would imagine is going to be modus operandi for most of these guys.
Well, you don't want to pit too late. I'd say about 20 to go is when you would really want to pit for fuel and tires, just to make sure that you make it, because in my opinion, it's not too late. You'll still have an opportunity to really just, have enough laps to gain your time back. And of course, one thing that is for sure, you can always hope for a caution, but at this moment, it really does seem like this can go green all the way to the end.
And you see Wilco there 2 laps down, going around some other drivers. He is on fresher tires in that Ryobi machine, which, by the way, completely unsponsored. I want to point out Ryobi Power Tools. They're pretty nice. used a few in my day-to-day work, and I do like them. They have good impact tools. Anyway, Jim Ott in 5th. He's held that spot for a while. Tommy Ryan, Tommy Ryan almost caught up in our first caution here tonight. He's gotten to 6th. So I got to say, really impressed by the ability that he's had to come from the back to the front, as it were.
Yeah, exactly. Starting 36th position shows you how much he was able to, well, just get up to the front. As he is in 4th position, don't necessarily know if he's pitted just yet, but it shows
no, he has not.
He is not pitted, but shows you for sure he'll probably come back out in about the top 15 or something like that. And so that's going to be interesting. As wow, what a slide into pits from Daniel Falkingham. He was able to slow down just in time. Get into pit lane.
Pit entry. For Daniel, he's in his box. Looks like Thomas Conheady in as well. In that 67 machine. Chad Cole. Looks like he's in. Looks like I thought he had a tire down for a moment, but either way, if he did, he's in the pits, so not going to be a problem for him at the moment. I reckon he might have had a tire down, but one way or another, he's out and away, so not going to be an issue for him. Joey Gattina, you want to talk about a good pit cycle? He's going to cycle around to be about 5th.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal pit cycle.
Although he might still have to pit, I'm not entirely sure. But again, if he's already pitted, which don't quote me, but I do believe Gattina already has, he will cycle to be about 5th place. And he came from, where was he? He was about 30th at the start of this run, and he started 37th. And I said at the beginning of the race, I said, well, he's having difficulty here tonight. He started last week. He ran speed weeks amazingly. Looks like he was just playing a smart strategy game, if everything works out for him.
Exactly, and well, like I said as well, if you are struggling, especially in qualifying, sometimes qualifying isn't necessarily a person's strong suit. They'll just have to work towards that. But a big thing, as always, would just be letting the car do its thing. Every single pit stop, just kind of working on it as long as just the run can get better with, of course, the track. And that's, I believe, exactly what has happened.
Yeah, it looks like Brian Macklin's in front of him, so he'll be about 6th. Which, again, not a bad place to be at all, considering how that run started for Gattina. Leaders, of course, still have to pit. Looks like your top 3. Well, Ryan Howard's in his box. Tommy Ryan, Bradenberg yet to pit. I would imagine they'll be coming soon. Now, again, like I said, I think we're going to have one last pit stop, if that. Tommy Ryan, not down yet. Will he come this time by? No. Maybe next time by. Josh Parker back in 12th, having a great run at the moment. And again, another driver that came from the back more towards the front of the field. What do you think of Josh Parker's night so far?
I think Josh Parker's night has been very impressive as well. Another driver starting deep in the field, 35th position up to 12th position at the moment. Josh Parker in a fantastic place to finish close, either closer to the top 5 or maybe even, of course, getting an actual top 5 finish if things were to go his way as well. Just doing a fantastic job and can only go up from here.
Bradenberg still electing not to pit. And I don't know what he's doing. Maybe hollowed out the roll cage for some extra fuel, but I don't know what he's doing. But whatever he's doing got him some extra laps, which is what he needs. Well, your caution summary for tonight, only one caution for 3 laps. We have been, knock on wood, clean and green for most of this race. That caution was fairly early on tonight, and it was the result of one car spinning. Ryan Jackson went around, or Ray Jackson, I'm sorry, he went around, collected Jeff Ryan in the 30. And you see Jeff Ryan back out on track with extensive damage, and also collected one of the other drivers, but I can't quite remember who. But that was your only caution of the night so far. 8 lead changes though, so we've, you know, for all we've been saying about these drivers getting able to, you know, pull away from each other, we have seen a little mixing up for the lead. I think that's pretty impressive to see.
For sure, just different, mix-ups for the lead have been very impressive. Of course, when everything is set in stone, I believe we'll see David Comstock back in this race lead. Gregory Brandenburg, of course, hasn't pitted just yet. Could have been one of the first cars down pit lane, but of course, just knowing that, won't necessarily have enough fuel to really just make it all the way to the end of this race, as every driver, I believe, won't. But just talking about how, clean and green this race has been, it's going to be an interesting situation to see what happens, as I believe he is down pit lane.
Yep, he is. Bradenberg hits the pits. And maybe the reason he waited so long, you think he can go the final 38 laps or 39 laps on fuel from here?
Well, I mean, how long was this run right there? That will probably tell you exactly that. I think it's possible
pit on
that
lap
he'll
87,
be able to go.
And I'll try and see when he pitted earlier. Well, would have been under caution. And he pitted on lap 26. So his run went about 62 laps there.
I think he has a winning strategy. If
that
all goes
might
his
be.
way.
Yeah, he went 62 laps. The other drivers, they pitted. He was the last driver to pit. The driver before him was Tommy Ryan. Jeff Ryan pitted on 70. Your leader, your current leader, David Comstock, pitted on 74. And you do that math, Comstock's run can last about, let's find out, 48 laps. And you have 37 to go, so Comstock is good on fuel. According to that calculation, the 36 is more good on fuel. It's going to be a toss-up, let's put it that way. I think there'll be some leaders that do pit, but I think Comstock's going to be good to the end. The benefit that Bradenberg has is tires. He's got a lot newer tires. He's got tires newer by the tune of about 12 laps. And that'll make a difference.
Exactly. Everything that he did right there will make a huge difference. Indeed, just having the fresher amount of tires, and it could be that some drivers might need to decide to pit early now, basically. Once again, they'll probably be able to make it on fuel right after if they were to pit now, just due to the fact of, well, he might have just opened up a new window for each of these drivers.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens here. Well, what do you think's going to happen? Do you think he put himself on a winning strategy, or do you think he didn't and he gave himself a lot of extra fuel, but he didn't read the strategy right?
I think if it goes green all the way, it read the strategy correct. If it doesn't, then it will be well wrong. And why I say it that way is just due to the fact of if there's a caution thrown, everyone will be back on a level playing field. He'll go back down pit lane and have a fresh set of Goodyear tires, but most likely won't have to take fuel. But that's the only difference right there.
Yeah, because remember, if there's a caution, everything goes right out the window. If there's no caution, it can all play out differently. Yeah, because Comstock, everyone pitted on that first caution. I mean, the entire field. So everyone was level there, and it was just a matter of how long you stretch that fuel run. Somehow, Bradenberg stretched it to lap, what did I say, 84. I don't know how, but he did. And that led to a very interesting development. Comstock stretched it to only about lap 70, 72, 74. We'll look at it again. I'll tell you in just a moment. But yeah, he stretched it to lap 74. So that's a gain of about 10 laps, which is big. Don't get me wrong. But I don't think it's big enough. Bradenberg stretched it to 86. My bad. So that's 12 more laps. But I think in the long haul, with only 31 laps to go, or what it was when he pitted, I don't see that being that big of a factor.
Well, yeah, everyone will have to pit. The only difference is, of course, yes, they'll have fresher tires when they come back out. So that could play a big factor, but at that same time, how big of a gap will he have? And that will be letting us basically figure it out from then on.
And you can see Beasley racing with Jimmy Coleman, 14th position right now. This is where racing gets exciting for these back positions, I'd say. What do you think?
Well, for sure, you're going for any point possible. Especially going closer to, well, just 14th position. It'll show you where each of these drivers will most likely stand.
And look at Beasley getting the pass.
Exactly, side by side right here.
Jim Ott looks to go 3 wide. Almost some contact there. That could have potentially been a caution. Keyword being potential.
Exactly, and as we get later into this run, or as we get later into this race, I should say, we kind of expect these moves for them to go 3 wide, for them to try and get every single position, because you just want to get into some clean air for yourself and to have an opportunity to get into that top 10. It's very important in anyone's eyes to just get that top 10, to feel confident going into Auto Club, going into, well, just race after race after race.
Yeah, and look at this. You have 24 drivers left on the lead lap. Mattis, or 23 rather, and I think Gbu, the last driver on the lead lap in 23rd. So that's pretty interesting to see there.
Yeah, exactly. The last driver on the lead lap is going to be key here. He's just got to stay on this lead lap. Yes, of course, you can hope for a caution if you do get a lap down, because you'll be that first car a lap down. But there's no telling if there will be.
And right now, 101 laps in, 25 to go at the stripe. David Comstock pulling away to the tune of about 1.5 seconds. Meanwhile, Josh Parker battling here for 7th place. Pretty good run for Parker, I'd say.
Exactly. Talked about it time and time again. 7th position when you start 35th is just a dream run. talk about having a couple of those on iRacing, and well, it just makes you feel really great. Like you're able to just hit your marks constantly, play the strategy out, avoid a wreck if you have to, and well, come home in a top 10. It just doesn't get any better than that. Of course, winning the race always feels great, but when you can do that, it's kind of like a win for you.
And side by side here, Chad with Daniel Falkingham, rather. Interesting to see Falkingham's contrast between the two different race cars, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And we've talked about it time and time again, how different, how big of a difference these cars are, from having downforce to really not having anything and having to really just control it. It is a handful to drive. Tested it out today, and well, at this racetrack, how slick, how hot the temperatures are as well, it just doesn't help the race car. Of course, these drivers having to just toughen it out and make sure that they keep it on the racetrack. Doesn't get any better for this from a fan's perspective.
And right now, 104 in, and again, you look at where Josh Parker started. You mentioned this finish could be considered like a win for him. I definitely would agree with that. He started 35th, near the back of the field. Remember, 43-car field, so not quite dead last, but very near it. So I got to say, I mean, incredible run, without a doubt, if he gets there. Another driver, Trey Edison in 9th, started 34th. Clint Cox started 14th. Ryan Howard started 5th. Robert Gilmore started 15th. Lowest position he's been was 20th. Richard Beasley started 13th place here. Jim Ott having a good run. But it has been a good night for these drivers. Brian Macklin started 11th, and I gotta say, tonight, kind of a redemption night for him, in my opinion, after last night getting wrecked out with, what I say, was like about 90-something laps down when it was all said and done at the end of the race last night, Jacob.
Yeah, it was something like that. For sure, a redemption night for him, just trying to get good points, because, yes, of course, you want to do well in the Cup Series for sure, because, well, it's the main NASCAR series in general. But as always, you just want to, well, like you said, redeem yourself. It always feels good to have a fantastic run in either of those, because you know that you, well, did something basically for that weekend. And so, of course, it gives you confidence for the next weekend in both those races.
And right now, your current race leader with 18 laps to go. Again, he was in a position just like this last night with just about the same laps left in the race. And then what happened? A final fatal caution for him. Cost him the race. Daniel Falkingham was able to take the lead, and the rest, as they say, was history. So, Comstock, I'm sure, is praying to whatever racing gods he can think of to not have a caution with 17 laps to go.
Definitely. He's got a 2-second lead over the whole field. And talking about how this race has been playing out, that is, well, just a fantastic lead, basically. You've only seen about a second lead from each of these drivers. And a lot of them, of course, have come up short, and they've had to pit or have had a caution fall or something of that sort. So you talk about it here, and just in a perfect position to run his own race and to make sure that he can kind of let off if he wants to.
Right here, going into the final 2 corners of the racetrack with 15 laps to go. They're looking to put the 09, that is Schoonover, another lap down. So they're closing in on the back 30 race cars. Schoonover lets him by. Good run by him. I gotta say, always good to see a lap driver kind of know when to get out of the way. And you see Monsetti just got put a lap down, so 19 drivers. Glenn Campbell, the last one on the lead lap in that Trans Service Toyota Chevy. You seeing both the manufacturer decals on that thing like me, Jacob, or is that just my trading paints glitch?
I think I'm seeing both of them as well. But yeah, one thing that I also want to point out here is that it's been an impressive race, that we've been able to stay green for so long. And it has shown, especially, I love how iRacing does this, and of course it's real life as well, how they detail, of course, the racetracks. With this dynamic track, you're just looking into the turns, how rubbered down it is, and all of the extra marbles on that high line closer to the wall. So you can see even the wall is a little darker on that low line, so, or on the high, basically on the wall, basically. It's just looks really cool, and it shows you how much these drivers have been working to try and, of course, finish under green and put on a phenomenal show here, and they have done just that.
Yeah, and right now, side by side, Josh Parker going for third on Daniel Falkingham. Does he get it? No, not quite. Not quite this lap. And yeah, you mentioned the dynamic track detailing. Yeah, you can see all those marbles up in the corner, and you see the racetrack. Las Vegas, this has been a really great race for us tonight, and I want to say one of the reasons, I think it's, you notice we've had two lines. We've seen the driver run the bottom and been fast, and we've seen drivers like, watch Josh Parker right there. We've seen a driver run the middle line and be equally fast. It's a two-lane track, and that's rare to see, and I love when we get to have those races.
Exactly. Very rare to see indeed. So it'll be interesting. Of course, our next mile-and-a-half racetrack, to be exact here, will be when they head to Atlanta Motor Speedway in about 3 weeks from now.
Yeah, we'll pack up and go to Phoenix after this, or Auto Club, rather.
Yeah, we go to Auto Club this following Sunday. Then the following Sunday after that, we'll go to Phoenix, and then the following Sunday after that is, I believe, Atlanta.
Yep.
So if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong, but I believe I'm correct on that. Either way,
no, you're right.
Fun.
You're right, because it goes West Coast swing, then we go back to the east. And look at Gillenwater running there. Oh, man! Justin Fuller, Clint Cox, hard into the inside wall. No caution. We'll get one more replay on that, though, and see what happened. Fuller tags the wall. Cox nowhere to go. Both get sent down to the apron into that inside retaining wall. Looks similar to Jeff Gordon and Jeff Burton's crash in the late 2000s, does it not?
Watching the replay right now, and I think it kind of does remind me of that exact.
Especially with the bright green 51, vaguely reminiscent of Jeff Gordon's Nicorette machine.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
But, yeah, no yellow with 8 laps to go, and I'm sure David Comstock breathing a sigh of relief. The one driver who isn't, that's Clint Cox. He was having a great top 10 run, and unfortunately now stuck in 19th, a lap down with a less than ideal race car. Trey Edison, let's talk about him. There's a driver we ain't mentioned too much here tonight. He is running in 5th. He started 34th. You want to talk about a good improvement, look no further.
Yeah, exactly. Trey Edson right behind Josh Parker as well. Look at that, 34th and 35th place right beside each other in 4th and 5th place as well. So
they got to swap, and then they'll be sequential.
Exactly. So of course, you talk about it. every single time. Yes, having a phenomenal run. They gotta be over the moon. Of course, the better thing would be to have maybe a race victory, but no one, I believe no one will be able to catch Dave Comstock unless, of course, a caution flag were to fly. But, of course, I don't see that happening. So just being right there from starting up way far in the grid, honestly, like I said before, it doesn't get any better.
And right now, it is some great racing here with just 5 laps to go. Daniel Falkingham looks like he might lose third. What do you think?
It is possible that he will lose third indeed. Let me go down to his number real quick. They're just battling it out really nicely.
Yeah, Daniel Falkingham trying to hold on to the spot. Meanwhile, Thomas Conetti, got to give him props. Top 10 finish on the line here. Currently in 10th. He might even get past Chad Coleman. And Chad Coleman has had a tire go down. I believe he lost a tire and went straight up to the outside retaining wall. Disaster for the 38 team. Yes, he has. Look at that car going through the corner, Jacob.
Yeah, he's lost a tire.
He has lost the right front tire. Man, oh man, could you have predicted that? With 3 laps, he's not the only one. The 3-car Jimmy Cole has had a tire go down as well.
Yeah, very interesting.
And here's the replay. We'll watch the replay. Watch Chad Coleman. Goes into the corner, and the car pitches right into the outside safer barrier. And that, as they say, is all she wrote. David Comstock better be careful on this final lap now, presented by Over the Top Designs. He does not want to lose his tire.
Exactly. It's just been because of how long they've been out there on the same sets of tires. Talk to, real life racing drivers, and because iRacing does this so well, especially with this new tire model, that you can run about 50 laps on these sets of tires, and so running just a little bit more will put that strain just like that, and it will go
off at 3 and 4. David Comstock makes up for last night, goes to victory lane. Second place to, I think, Brian Macklin. Yes, barely. Falkingham will come home third. Josh Parker fourth. Ryan Howard will be, or Trey Edison, then Ryan Howard. Thomas Conheady will be 9th, and that is pretty exciting finish. I don't think you could have predicted seeing some of these drivers lose a tire. You see Howard 6th, Gilmore, Conheady, Cole, Ott, O'Rourke, Ritter, Beverly, Bradenburg, Beasley, Rhine, Munsetti, Ayrson, Gattina, Jabu, Key, Whitaker, Stamper, Runkle, Formosa, Cox, Coleman, Mattis, Brown, Wilco, Schoonover, Brooks, Coleman, Campbell, Yoakum, Fuller, Rhine, Sigmund, Bonwell, Bass, Cataloni, Jackson, and Mustaine round out the field. I mean, I could not have predicted seeing those drivers lose a tire like that in the final few laps. And that almost brought out a caution, too. Chad Coleman got tagged, and I didn't see who it was down the backstretch because he was slow. But Coleman got tagged by someone, and I was about ready to see a big crash there and then a green-white checker finish. And you see Comstock blowing out the back rear tire in Kevin Harvick fashion. You see the back left rear tire down now on David Comstock's machine.
Exactly, a fantastic burnout by David Comstock. I was watching his tires just to make sure as he tried to turn it, and you could see
car didn't
that
want
bump
to turn.
Right there.
Car said it wasn't interested in turning. Yeah, taking out the tires in style of Kevin Harvick. We're with the wrong driver. We are with, coming at you now. We'll have the right driver with you. We're David Comstock now. Great burnout there. Great win.
Thank you.
Well, you blew out the tires there on your burnout, but some of your competitors lost the tires with 2 laps to go or 3 laps to go. Were you worried about your own?
No, I wasn't. I knew based off of that pit stop we had, that green flag stop, that I was taking care of my tires pretty good. So I wasn't concerned with it. I was just more so concerned that, with how late we were going. I seen some guys peel off to pit road pretty early. So hearing about the tire troubles already, that some guys were getting close to blowing out tires, and they're pitting even earlier than what we had done as far as that green flag run. I was concerned about guys, when they blow a tire, that they bring a yellow out and change the complexity of the race there, considering pretty much had it in the bag there. So fortunately, that all worked out to our plan there, our favor, where we were able to keep it green. So hats off to everybody in the field there for getting it there to the end under green.
Now, call this redemption for last night's second place finish. Were you looking to win here tonight, or did you kind of surprised by the win? What were you expecting coming into it?
No, every race I enter, I expect to win. I try to go out and win. That's pretty much the expectation I put for myself. Redemption, I guess. I mean, it doesn't bring that win I let go away back. So that's a totally separate deal. And this in the past, you just move on and go on to the next one.
All right. Well, any sponsors you want to thank?
Yeah, I would like to thank everybody all over on Team Name for all their support. Everybody, you guys there broadcasting for us here on Sim500, and Ford Entertainment Group for sponsoring our series here, and all the admins at Sim500 for putting on our leagues, and sponsors in the car, racingbiz.com. If you go onto Facebook and search up racingbiz.com, we got live auctions that go on every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern of all kinds of really cool racing merchandise, memorabilia, authentic autographed items there. So go check them out on Facebook as well as online at racingbiz.com. Jada Lair and Jada Graphics for painting my car. Everybody all out there watching, appreciate you guys. Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks for talking to us, man. Great job on the win.
Thanks.
All right. And Jacob Young now with Brian Macklin, second place finisher.
All right, Brian Macklin, how you doing?
Doing all right. How you guys doing tonight?
Doing pretty good ourselves. Fantastic racing that you all were able to put on, of course, in that long run. How was that car feeling?
Oh, with this tire, you have to really manage it from the drop of the green flag on a run and make sure that you don't overheat the tire or drive into the corner too hard, because if you do that even just once, it really messes up the entire run. So you really had to be smart and be calculated. And I knew coming into this race, Las Vegas is one of them tracks where you typically see a lot of long green flag runs, so I was kind of prepared for that. I did a couple of longer runs in practice and kind of had a feel for what I needed. Unfortunately, Comstock was just a little bit better there at the end of the race. I saved, but I think I went a little too soon to try to start catching him, and he just kind of managed his pace all the way to the finish.
All right. And of course, well, what will you be able to take away from this race into none other than Auto Club?
Really, I think the tracks are so different, you can't take too much away from racing here at Vegas and take it to Auto Club. I mean, the tire situation is going to be very similar, where you're going to have to manage your tires, but the tracks are so different, and the way that you approach the races are so different that I really don't know that you can take too much, other than just knowing that you have to be really smart with the tire conservation. Auto Club is another one of them tracks that tends to have long green flag runs, so I think the tires are going to mean a lot when we get there.
All right. Anyone that you'd like to thank, sponsors, that sort of thing?
Absolutely. I got to thank my teammates down there, Trey, Justin, and EJ. We work together every week. I want to thank everybody at Sim500 for allowing us to race and putting together so many cool different series that we're able to run. Got to thank you guys. And I also want to thank the American Lung Association. I've ran that sponsor on my car for a while. My grandmother was diagnosed with cancer a couple of years ago, and unfortunately, she lost her battle, and this was my way of trying to keep her in my memory. And they allowed me to run this paint scheme, and I do some things with them now, so it's kind of cool.
All right. Well, thank you for talking to us, and hopefully we'll talk to you next week, but this time, of course, in Victory Lane.
That's the plan. See you guys next week, guys.
All right, and last up on the interview block, third place finisher, it is Daniel Falkingham. Have you got a copy of me?
10-4.
All right, well, great job on third place. You couldn't sweep the weekend, but what did you think of your race regardless?
I thought the race, it started good when we got the pole, and then we fell back up towards the start. That was just because we were trying to save the right front there, because you saw at the end of the race, a lot of people were blowing right front tires. And then we had a little minor incident. I think it was with Chad Cole about 20 laps into the race where we got together going into turn 1, gave me some right side damage. So luckily I caught a lucky break with the only yellow flag, and I had to get all my damage repaired. So I had to drive back from 27th on that last run. And we somehow got the third because we just took care of our tires really well, and we managed to start passing cars. I think we got up to like 8th or something before pit stops. And then as the pit stop cycled out, and then we ran all the way to the end, we just took care of our tires and then managed to drive back up to third place. So, I mean, I think we definitely had a shot to win the race tonight. But hey, my teammate won. We came out with a good result. So hey, I'll definitely take it.
Well, were you worried about losing your own tire, or were you confident that it was going to hold off till the end of the race?
No, I knew I was gonna be fine to the end because I was like I pitted really late compared to the leaders. Like I knew David pitted, and then I pitted like a few laps later, so I was and I knew I was taking care of my tires really well because I wasn't getting really tight because I was just taking it easy, just rolling into the throttle and whatnot. And I really wasn't feeling really any tight. I was feeling more loose than anything, so it felt good how kind of the handling changed throughout the race. But I was pretty confident my right front was gonna hold off to the end. Luckily it did, and luckily we didn't. Like I said, luckily we didn't blow a right front like a lot of other people did this race.
All right. Well, anyone you want to thank, sponsors, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I got to thank First Street Bay Labs 207 for all their support. Also got to thank Raging Cajun Design, John Mushing Jr. for painting this car for me. Also got to thank FEG for our team and group for sponsoring the series. Also got to thank everyone here at Sim500 for all they do. Joey, Don, and everyone. Also got to thank everyone at Team Name for all their support. You know everyone there. Also, congrats to David on the win there. It's fun being teammates with him. He's a really good buddy of mine. Glad he managed to win the race there. Also, thank you guys for putting on the broadcast. We will go back and watch it. And thanks to everyone who watched the race tonight, who also watched my stream as well.
All right. Well, hope everyone enjoyed tonight's broadcast. Thank you for talking to us, and thank you to everyone for watching. We'll see y'all tomorrow night. FEG PC Monday Big Money Series goes to Las Vegas, so we'll see y'all then.